In this data driven era of football, the obsession with youngsters has gone further and further. Kylian Mbappé, Phil Foden, and Lamine Yamal are amongst the players to break into world class teams at a young age, and scouts target younger and younger players in order to find just one top talent. Today, we look at one little known youngster from each Premier League club and predict where he might end up. Arsenal, Maldini Kakuri. 19-year-old centre-back Kakuri has made his first moves into senior football since joining the Arsenal Academy from Fulham in 2022. The season just gone, he was given his first appearance for the senior side, coming on for Riccardo Calafiori for 20 minutes in a 5-1 win over Bolton Wanderers in the Carabao Cup. Kakuri was sent on loan to Bromley in League Two and immediately went into the first team, starting their 3-3 draw away to Salford. However, it seems Ravens boss Andy Woodman didn't like what he saw of the Albanian, as he didn't start him again after this, with Kakuri making only two more brief cameos off the bench, and he was spotted back in Arsenal training way before his loan was meant to end, even playing for their under-21s the same day Bromley finished their League Two campaign. Despite this, he has now experienced first-team football, and also got his first cap for Albania's under-21s in a 1-1 draw at home to Moldova. Arsenal are overwhelmed with fantastic centre-backs at the moment, with the likes of William Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori, and Urian Timber, and it is likely the Gunners will have no need for him. However, he has shown good potential at an early age, and nothing is saying he can't make it as a good championship quality centre-back. My prediction for Kakuri, if he stays in England, is a solid career in the EFL, perhaps tasting some seasons in the Prem, and a good number of caps for his country well into the double digits. Aston Villa, Travis Patterson. Patterson is an 18-year-old left back who has also experienced time as a left midfielder, and like Kakuri, he has had his first minutes at a senior club the year just gone. He came on in the last minute for Ian Matson in a 2-1 win away to Wickham in the Carabao Cup, but was a regular for Villa's under-21s in the first half of the season, before being sent on loan to League Two MK Dons. He came on as a sub for the Dons in his first two matches, before being handed three starts, but after Scott Lindsay was sacked following a difficult spell, caretaker boss Ben Gladwin preferred other options, starting Patterson in his first game but then removing him from the squad, with Patterson's only other appearance coming as a late substitute on the final day, when the club had nothing to play for. Still, Patterson, who has been capped for England at under-19 level, will have learned from being in a first-team environment and has good potential. Villa are going places and therefore might not need him unless he develops quickly, but I think he has the ability to play regularly for a lower-level Prem team or a Championship side. Bournemouth, Remy Rees-Dottin. Striker Remy Rees-Dottin received his first appearances for Bournemouth's senior team this season, with late cameos against West Brom in the FA Cup and Newcastle in the Premier League. At just 18, the youngster will massively value that experience, and Bournemouth will monitor his development closely as their search for depth in that position goes on, following the departure of Dominic Solanke and the issues regarding Enes Unal. If he doesn't make it at the Vitality, he will probably look to the EFL, but Rees-Dottin is someone that Bournemouth fans are right to be excited about. Brentford, Gustavo Nunes. Perhaps not as obscure as some of the others on this list, but Gustavo Nunes has made very little appearances in England and still looks like he could reach a very good level. Nunes was snapped up from Brazilian side Grêmio, where he was a regular starter as the immortal Tricolour won their 43rd state championship, also playing in the National League and the Copa Libertadores. Nunes was kept out of most of the season, just on with a back issue, but did feature in three cameos at the end of Brentford's Premier League season. I think it's a shame he didn't get a chance to feature under Thomas Frank, but if Keith Andrews can make him tick, in time we could be seeing a player of real quality, and he's played at a higher level than most on this list, despite being only 19. I think it's feasible we could see him in a Brazil shirt one day, or at least in the squad, if not as a starter, and he could have a very solid career in the Premier League or a Europa League level team on the continent. Brighton, Harry Howell. Harry Howell is hugely rated at Brighton, being fast-tracked to the senior team despite being just 17 years old. An attacking player who can play as the main striker, in the hole, or on the right, Howell was a regular for the Seagulls under-21 side this season and made his first senior appearance, replacing Danny Welbeck, whose senior debut for Manchester United came just a few months after Howell was born, for the last few minutes in a 3-2 win at home to Liverpool. He was also in the England under-17 squad for the Euros and has 11 appearances at that level, scoring in the group game against Czechia. Brighton have now tied him down to a senior contract, and there's no doubt Howell is someone who has the quality to one day play for a side which fights for the European places in the strongest league in the world, as well as perhaps pull on the England shirt one day. I think he could have a really solid career in the Premier League or on the continent. Burnley, Joe Bores. Bores is just 19, but will be known to Clarets fans for a while, with the midfielder having made his debut for the Clarets back in 2022 in a Carabao Cup win over Crawley. After missing the 23-24 season with an ACL, MCL, and meniscus issue, he was a regular part of their under-21 side this season, but made two further first-team appearances, including his first start, playing the whole game, including extra time, in an FA Cup fixture away to Reading, looking like he had the right to be there, and even setting up Lyle Foster for the opener to record his first senior assist. In the next round, where the Clarets dumped out Premier League Southampton 1-0 away, Boris played the last 30 minutes, coming on for John Joe Shelvey. He has also played for England at under-18 level. He wasn't named in a championship squad this season, not even on the bench, and it will be hard to see him get too many opportunities now the Clarets are in the Premier League, with perhaps a loan to a League One side a good way to boost his minutes. However, if he meets his potential and Burnley become a regular lower half fixture in the Premier League, there's no reason at all why Bores can't start week in, week out in the Prem for them. Chelsea, Shim Mahuka. Chelsea's Conference League win brought many previously little-known youngsters to the forefront, including Tyreek George, Joss Ashiampong, and Amari Kellyman. Therefore, I've gone with Shim Mahuka. 17-year-old striker Mahuka was upgraded from the under-18 to the under-21 squad this season at Chelsea, and received his Chelsea debut in the Conference League this season, coming off the bench in a 3-1 away win over Astana in the league phase. He then got a brief cameo in the Premier League against Southampton, followed by his first start in the Conference League in the round of 16 first leg against Copenhagen. He got another appearance in both the quarter-final and semi-final, which he mixed with regular under-21 game time, netting 5 times for the Young Blues. He also played at each game for England in the Euro under-19s, finding 2 assists in Romania. Mahuka might find it hard to break through at free-spending Chelsea, where 8-figure strikers come in at a breathless rate, but he does have the skills to be a number 9 for a Premier League side, and maybe be a squad player in a senior England team. Crystal Palace, Asher Agbenone. 19-year-old Agbenone is able to play on the wings or behind the main striker, and started the season playing for Palace's under-21s. However, he will probably be quite familiar to Eagles fans because he had a lot of appearances on the bench in their first-team squad this season, and was given substantial minutes in their pre-season tour in the US. However, he still warrants a place on this list because he is not talked about much outside South London. Agbenone was given his official debut in a very brief cameo in the league away to Forest, and also had another short appearance in a game at home to Fulham. However, he spent the second half of the season on loan to Gillingham in League Two. He started 4 of his first 5 games in Kent, but then an injury limited his minutes, with him only managing a brief cameo in April and then a start on final day with nothing to play for after that. However, Agbenone is still young and has a fair bit of potential. If things work out for him, he could be a Premier League and perhaps even Europa League quality player, and maybe a squad player in the England team. Palace's first team would certainly be a realistic target to aim for in his future. Everton, Elijah Campbell. At 20, Elijah Campbell is a bit older than the others on this list, but he is starting to make moves and I think he deserves a look in because not many have heard of him and he has potential to make it at the Toffees. The centre-back spent the second half of the 23-24 season on loan to Fleetwood in League One, being a regular part of the Cod Army's 3-man defence from January to April, before losing his place to Caden Rooney as the side got relegated. The season just gone, Campbell went on loan to Ross County, where he was sometimes deployed in left midfield by Don Cowie, especially in the first half of the season, but was mostly a centre-back. He made 31 appearances for the Staggies in all competitions as they went down after losing the playoff, and also netted his first senior goal in a 3-1 loss away to Hibs. Though he has experienced 2 relegations, it's also vital experience at good levels, but he still remains obscure to most people who aren't fans of the clubs he's played at. He's also played 4 games for England under-20s. I think Campbell could have a very good EFL career, and maybe even taste Premier League football. Fulham, Harvey Araujo. 20-year-old defender Harvey Araujo tasted senior football for the first time in the season just gone, being sent on loan to League Two Chesterfield. He was a rotation player for the Spiroites and racked up some good minutes, managing 23 appearances despite a knee injury which kept him out for 3 months. The former England under 18 international has now got the experience to build next season, perhaps with another loan. I'm not sure how much of a future he has with Fulham, but he certainly could be a very solid EFL level or even perhaps lower Premier League level player. Leeds, Sam Chambers. 18-year-old Chambers is very well liked at End Road, and it's no doubt given his potential. Able to play on either side of the midfield or as a number 10 or 9, Chambers played for the Leeds under 21s at the start of the season but saw his time playing for them limited by regular features as part of the White senior matchday squad. He got given a debut off the bench in a Championship 3-0 win at home to Plymouth, and also got his first start in a 2-0 loss in the FA Cup at home to Millwall. Those were his only senior appearances in the season just gone, but he also played for the Scotland under 19 team. I think Chambers is a really good talent, and Leeds might struggle to hold on to him unless they become Premier League regulars, in which case he might turn out to be a very important player for them and a regular international in front of the Tartan Army. Liverpool. Tre Nyoni. Reds fans might disagree with me putting Yoni on this list as he has grown in profile, but if the wider football community has heard of him, it will just be as a Liverpool youngster, without perhaps grasping his potential. A few teenagers have received a bit of playing time in the last couple of seasons, with the Copites stranded in the Europa League in 23-24 and then the expansion to the Champions League in 24-25. Nyoni signed from Leicester in 2023, and during the 23-24 season moved from the Reds under 18s to their under 21s. He came off the bench in a 3-0 win over Southampton in the FA Cup for his debut, and was a familiar face in the matchday squad, including being on the bench for the Carabao Cup final. The midfielder got 5 more appearances in red this season, ticking off milestones including his first Carabao Cup game in a 3-2 win away to Brighton, and then his first start in the next round away to Southampton, his first European game away to PSV, and his first FA Cup start in the 1-0 loss at Plymouth. Yoni also stepped up to England under 20 level, and he is among the most surefire bets on this list to represent his country at senior level. I could see him being a quality player for a Champions League side, including Liverpool themselves, in the future. Manchester City, Mahamadou Sissoko. It's quite hard to find someone at City that isn't at least kind of known to the casual football fan, given Pep Guardiola's penchant for rotation and using youngsters in the cups and early stages of the Champions League. However, I'll go with 20-year-old Mahamadou Sissoko. In the 23-24 season, Sissoko made his City debut, coming on briefly in a Champions League win away to Crvena Zvezda. But for the one just gone, he was sent on loan to League One Peterborough. Despite starting the first game, he missed the first half of the season with a thigh issue, and this saw the defensive-minded midfielder lose playing time, although he did still manage 17 appearances, 7 of which were starts for the Posh, as well as coming on in the EFL Trophy final at Wembley, which they won. He also netted his first senior goal, being decisive in the 1-0 league win at home to Wigan. He has also played for Spain up to under 18 level. Sissoko might find a mega club like City hard to break into, but he could well be an important player for a Premier League, La Liga, or Europa League side, and it's completely reasonable to imagine him in a Spain jersey in the future. Manchester United, Ethan Williams. Being in the Europa League has meant a lot of United youngsters have been thrust into the limelight, but Ethan Williams' name remains meaningless to most football fans. The 19-year-old left winger had less minutes for United's under 21s this season, but was sent to League Two Cheltenham on loan, where he was mostly a bench option but did manage a run of starts in late winter and early spring. His first taste of senior football would serve him well, and though I think it will be very tough to break into the Man United squad, he does have the potential to play at the Premier League level, perhaps for a lower half side. Newcastle, Miodrag Pivash. Unlike many in this list, 20-year-old centre-back Pivash has had pretty regular football, having been signed by the Magpies in 2024 after a season getting promoted to the Serbian top flight with Jedinstvo UB. This season he was loaned to Willem II, but despite starting both games in the KNVB Becker, was hardly given a sniff in the league as the Tricolores went down in the playoffs. Despite this underwhelming season, I think the former Serbia under-17 international has the ability to play regularly in the Premier League one day, although perhaps not at Newcastle if the Toon become a mega club as many anticipate. I can also see him being a senior international for his country. Nottingham Forest, Zach Abbott. 19-year-old centre-back Abbott made his senior debut for Forest back in 2022, coming on at the end of a Carabao Cup win over Grimsby. A regular for Forest under 21s this season just gone, Abbott got his first senior start, again in the Carabao Cup, as they lost to eventual champions Newcastle at home on penalties. However, he got a huge chance at the FA Cup semi-final at Wembley, when an injury to Ola Aina and a suspension for Neco Williams suddenly landed him in the starting 11, and he hardly put a foot wrong all game despite Forest's 1-0 loss to Man City. This is the highest stage anyone has played in on this list, but Abbott still hasn't received that much attention from the media after the initial interest in his performance, and I think he still deserves a place on this list. He also has 11 appearances for England under 19 and captained the side at the Euros in Romania. He definitely has shown has what it takes to play regularly for Forest at one point, being very capable of being a week in, week out Prem player. Sunderland, Matty Young. 18-year-old goalie Young has taken things up a notch after spending the second half of the 23-24 season on loan at 6th tier Darlington. This time he was shipped off to Salford in League Two and started the season as the Yammy's backup, with game time limited to the Carabao Cup, FA Cup and EFL Trophy. However, he then grabbed the number one spot from Jamie Jones in November, with 12 appearances in a row. Salford manager Carl Robinson then restored Jones in January, dropping Young to the bench, but then again changed his mind in March, and Young played the last 10 games as the Northwest outfit just missed out on the playoffs. He was also a regular England under 19 international during this time, before getting his first call ups at under 20 level. Sunderland produced England's current number one, and there's no reason Young can't be the Black Cats' first choice stopper one day. In fact, they will need to stay in the Premier League to keep him, because he definitely has the talent to be a regular number one for a top flight side. Tottenham, George Abbott. Spurs' injury problems and participation in the Europa League meant a lot of youngsters got chances this season to boost their profile, but one who would have went under the radar for those who watched the Lily Whites' victorious run in Europe is George Abbott. The 19-year-old defensive-minded midfielder has been at Spurs for a while and made his senior debut in 2023 on the final day of the Premier League away to Leeds. This season he was loaned to Notts County as he looked for regular game time, and he performed very well in League Two, making 44 appearances, 41 of them starts, in all competitions as the Magpies reached the playoffs, and Abbott also played every minute of the playoff semi-final, where they lost 2-0 in aggregate against AFC Wimbledon. Abbott registered 7 assists and scored 6 goals for Notts County, including a fantastic volley and a 3-0 demolition at Accrington, which was named the EFL's goal of the season. He's also been capped for England at under 19 level. He isn't as hyped as Mikey Moore or Jed Spence, but Abbott definitely has the potential to be a Premier League player one day. It might not be at Spurs, who spend big and are tough to break into, but this is someone who has the skills to play week in, week out in the Prem in his future. West Ham, Lewis Orford. 19-year-old midfielder Orford has been a regular starter for West Ham under 21s this season and often wore the armband at the Academy of Football. He received his first senior appearances this season, coming off the bench in a 2-0 loss at home to Palace and a 2-1 defeat at Chelsea. He also saw action for the England under 19 side, for whom he has 7 caps. If Orford develops as he is capable of doing, he could make the West Ham squad or another Premier League side. With their big signings such as Guido Rodriguez faltering, youth options suddenly seem more viable. And although Orford probably needs a loan to an EFL or foreign club to get used to senior football, he certainly has Premier League potential. Wolves, Bastian Miupiu. Miupiu has more senior experience than a lot of those on this list because of his time with Nantes. In France, there are B teams which play in the lower tiers, and therefore the centre-back played against senior clubs. After moving to Wolves and recovering from a meniscus issue, he suited up for the Midland side's under 21s, although was sometimes named on the bench for the senior side. He has also played for France up to under 18 level. I think that if he reaches his full potential, he would be better than anyone currently playing for Wolves at centre back and be able to fit into the squad for Europa League, Ligue 1 or Premier League side, and perhaps be an option for France's senior side as well. He's one of the ones you have to watch on this list. An interesting set of players there, and it will be fun to come back to this video in, say, 5 years' time. I haven't predicted anyone here to be the next Yamal or Mbappe because they were already at the highest level when at the ages this list of guys are. But I think most of these will go from people no one has heard of to seasoned pros, whether it's in the Premier League, EFL, or abroad. I do think the obsession with youth has its own downsides, with youngsters being tapped up at ever lower levels, with the pressure on children increasing as they sacrifice education as well as their families' time and money. Players that don't make it are often hugely mentally affected, with one, Jeremy Whiston, committing suicide after being released from Manchester City in 2020. Not all of these guys will make it and play in Champions Leagues and World Cups, but there is no shame in a solid Premier League, EFL, or even non league career, or even packing it in and seeking employment elsewhere. Such players aren't failed wonder kids, flops, or anything other than footballers who reached a different level than others. Thanks for watching. I'd appreciate if you commented who your club is and who I've missed if they're in the Premier League or who would get on this list if it's a club outside the English top flight. There are so many players, it seems, at a young age getting minutes now that it made this list harder to curate. You see Chelsea and Spurs in particular really relying on youth in Europe. And of course, the cups and loan moves giving more prominence. But I think I found somebody for most of the teams, at least, who most of you probably haven't heard of. Uh, Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you for the next video, which should be coming pretty soon.